The worst Silent Hill game actually terrified me, but not for the reason you'd think. Silent Hill Downpour is apparently one of the least liked games in the Silent Hill franchise. Both critically and according to people online, the gameplay, plot, and design of the game was not considered to be great. I wouldn't know, as my experience with the game was significant, but brief. I'm considering whether I should pick it up to play again, and give it another shot, despite what I've heard about the game critically. This is because of how the game has stuck with me when I first tried it. It was one of my very first horror experiences, and for years, one of my last. Nowadays, I consider myself a fan of horror, especially Resident Evil and Metro for the scary atmosphere that draws me in. But back when I was younger, say 14 or 15, I had no interest in a scary game, no idea what Silent Hill even was. I think the scariest thing I'd ever played up until that point was Call of Duty Zombies with my friends, but I would not choose to spend my spare time inducing nightmares. So when I stumbled upon Silent Hill Downpour at an EB Games, I had to weigh the pros and cons. It was probably one of those trips to the game store where I was trying to find something cheap, but still interesting. The guy with the axe on the cover was cool, so that was probably enough for me. Even though it was rated M and I could not technically buy it, I doubted anyone really cared. I bought it, brought it home, and then proceeded to wait until my parents were not around to play it. They went out for dinner one night on a snowy evening, leaving me to my own devices. I invited a friend over because if there was one thing I wouldn't do, it was play it alone. I convinced them by hyping it up as a scary game, promising a thrilling experience, and getting a pizza. That night I booted up my Xbox 360 and turned off all the lights, so the only glow was from the rain on the game's main screen. For what it's worth, I think Downpour starts off really strong. The entire beginning section really set the tone, and made me feel on edge. I was truly ready to get invested in the story and finally stumbled into the mystical town of Silent Hill when it happened. My parents came home. At least that's what I thought when I heard someone calling my name faintly throughout the house. I immediately paused the game because I didn't want them to know I was playing, and waited for them to come in. My friend and I waited and waited. I called back into the house, asking if they were home. No response. So I kept playing a little bit longer, but after a few minutes we eventually got up to go greet my parents since they weren't coming by to say hi. We went out, looked for them, and couldn't find anyone. We looked outside at my driveway to see freshly fallen snow, and there wasn't a car parked or any footprints. The door was unlocked, of course, maybe I had forgotten to lock it. Now I'm starting to feel creeped out to the point where I'm rushing around the house, hoping my parents just magically teleported in somehow and there was no one there. My friend and I were both convinced we'd heard a voice calling my name. It couldn't have been a part of the game. Back then we had one of those chunky TVs with no surround sound. It clearly came from within the house. So, what do we do? Maybe go outside, look around, freak out, call the police? No, we turned on every single light in the house out of fear, but that didn't stop us from playing and eating food. If I was going to die because a monster broke into my house, I wasn't going to let it get any leftover pizza. The game at this point had gotten way more intense, at least in our minds, so we played for a couple more hours until my parents actually got home. Upon arrival, they asked us, "Hey, didn't you get the message we left?" Of course, the answering machine. Playing it, it revealed my mom's voice calling my name, asking for me to pick up the phone. We were embarrassed, but at least no one had broken into the house. At the very least, Silent Hill Downpour was a lot scarier in those moments than it would have been. I tried playing it again later and was immensely bored. Should I give it another try? Let me know what you think, and thanks for listening.